So just so that everybody knows, this will be recorded so that we can post it on our Project Connect page, so that anybody who was unable to make this meeting but still had questions and wanted to see what everybody else had said would be available to do so. But also just wanted to let everybody know that it's being recorded. All right, so think we'll go ahead and get started because we don't want to take up too much of everyone's time, but we are very grateful for everybody who's here and who's interested in learning more about this project. So with that, we can go ahead and get started. Today, what we'll do is we'll start with introductions to the town staff, the design consultant. We'll give a project overview and just kind of give you an idea of what you guys can expect with scheduling and what's going to, disruptive things that you'll maybe notice, kind of give you guys a heads up on that. So with that, we'll go ahead and start with introductions. My name is Jill Preston, and I am the project manager with the town of Windsor. My contact information will be on Project Connect. And so if you have any questions or concerns, you're always welcome to reach out and contact me with those. And then I'll pass it along to the other town employees that are here today, and then our design consultant afterward.
My name's Ken Brenneman. I'm the construction manager for the engineering department at the town of Windsor. I'll be assisting Jill directly in this project, and I'll pass that on to Jim if you'd like.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Jim Willownicki. I am the water system superintendent for the town of Windsor. I'm with the Public Works Department, and we're working with the engineering department. At the end of all of this, this is our infrastructure that we're taking care of. So, hoping to be able to put a project out there that's going to help our infrastructure limit any service disruptions and things like that. So I appreciate being part of this. And I'll pass it to Casey and JUB.
Thank you. Yeah, my name's Casey Young. I'm the engineer working on this project with the town of Windsor. So we're working on the design on this project, replacing the existing 20-inch that's in that road. And yeah, just happy to be here. Happy to hear some input and make sure everybody's up to speed on what we're doing. And Alyssa, if you can introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Alyssa Stevens. I am a public engagement consultant with the Langdon Group. So I'll just be here taking notes and making sure we have a record of the questions folks have and any concerns that are raised during this meeting. So glad to be here.
Thank you. And I see we have Shane on too. Shane, do you want to really quick introduce yourself?
Shane Tim, town inspector for the town of Windsor.
Excellent, thank you. So it's a great team that's going to be working on this. So I'm super excited, and I think, we're all here to work to do what's best for the town and the residents, and particularly those who will be impacted by this project. So just before I move on, I did want to note there is the QR code for the Project Connect website, which will keep you up to date. We'll have regular updates on the project so that you know what to expect. There's also a link to the website. And then I'm not sure if everyone's aware or not, but you can receive traffic or like alert texts by texting Windsor Roads to 888-777, and then you'll just get regular updates on when you'll see, lane changes. Like sometimes they'll even notify when you're gonna see more like utility locates and stuff like that than usual. So, but with that, we can go ahead and get
Jill, you got muted, I think, in the middle of that sentence.
Oops, sorry about that. Okay, where did you last hear me?
I think as you were changing slides.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we'll start out with just a little project overview. There is a major water line that is located under 15th that connects into our water tanks. And it has been serving the community for a while. We were actually discussing how long it's been installed. The tanks were installed in the 70s, so we're thinking it's probably that old at least. So obviously aging materials and just the growth, just the unimaginable growth that Windsor has had over the years. It's time to increase or to replace the water line, and in the process we'll also be increasing the size. And this will start at the intersection of Main Street or State Highway 392 and County Road 15, and then it will move south to Southwood Lane. And we'll see here, this is a project overview. So it's kind of long, so it's a little bit different. North is going to be to your left and south is going to be to your right. So you see up here, this is Safeway. Can you guys see my pointer? Okay, all right, excellent. So we've got Safeway up here in the bank. We've got Columbine Commons right here. This is where this is where the project will start, and it will move south down here to, this is the His Little Feet Bible College community, and will tie into an existing ductile iron pipe that was replaced in the early 2000s. So and so the work will include removing, but also for the most part, it's going to be abandoning the 20-inch and installing a parallel 24-inch pipe. But in order to coordinate with some of the utilities, there is a section where it will be, we will be removing the 20-inch line, and it will be fully replaced with the 24-inch pipe. And that will also include replacing any water lines, fire hydrants, appurtenances that are aging that need to be addressed, adding anything in that really helps Public Works to be able to maintain the system and keep it running and serve the town on a daily basis. And then we do have a few service lines that are off of the main transmission line, and I'll kind of go over that. There are some homes down here off of right in front of this lake, this little lake here. They are on the transmission line, and then some of the homes down here on the transmission line. So our efforts will also include pulling them off, because it's not ideal to be on a transmission line, but they'll just be rerouted to their own or to a separate manifold. So it'll also involve coordinating with other utilities like sanitary, stormwater. There's going to be a stormwater that we're crossing up on the north side of the project. There'll be gas and electric and fiber optic that we'll be working with as well. So it definitely makes the project a little bit challenging at times. And then ultimately, once the water line is replaced, we will be restoring the asphalt, any curb and gutter, sidewalk damage, and landscaping. Because on that south end, we're going through people's yards and we are going through open space. So all of that will be restored to its original condition. So here is, or I guess maybe I can stop for a minute and see if anybody has any questions based on that they would like to put forward.
Jill, Brian, in the chat asked a question if we were planning on replacing all the fire hydrants in yards along 15th Street. I can speak to that if you'd
Yeah,
like.
do you
or-
want to
Yeah.
take that one, Casey?
Yeah, so we are planning on reconnecting to any hydrants that are directly off of this line, which I think there's only 2 hydrants directly off of this the transmission main. The rest of them are off this side, the laterals that go down to neighborhood streets or in those cul-de-sacs. We don't expect to need to replace any of them, but we'll see if any are aging and need replaced. This would be the time to do it, but we expect we'll be able to reconnect to the ones that are in good condition.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Any other questions? All right, I'll go ahead and move on to kind of what you guys can expect moving forward with.
Jill, I think you bumped your mute, changing slides.
I did. Thank you, Ken. Okay, so I'll move on to what to expect. And I just was saying I apologize. It's not transitioning from slide to slide as quickly as I thought it would. So, okay. Anyway, so the first thing that we wanted to make everyone aware of is that we will be doing a valve inspection. It will mostly be, or it will be on May 26th. We've got the 27th set aside in case there's anything unexpected, but we have 3 phases that or 3 areas that we will be inspecting valves on. And you can see them. We've got phase 1 on the north side with the green, phase 2 with the orange, and phase 3 with the red. And when the inspectors are working on checking these valves, it may impact water service. So we've put together kind of like windows of what you can expect if you are in phase 1, which is probably going to be the biggest impact because this is going to be businesses and the Columbine Commons. We will be trying to get that work done between 8:30 and 10 a.m. on Monday. Then phase 2 is going to be from 10 to 10:30, but I believe this should only impact that should only impact the church, Vineyard Church. And I've already talked to them and they didn't think that it was going to be an issue. And then the third phase is our residential areas, which will be Stonewood Court and Driftwood Court. That will be from 10:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. And if you are on any of these lines, then you should have received a door hanger letting you know kind of what to expect, but we didn't have those time windows yet. So hopefully this provides more clarification. And I see Brian asked if there will be any roads closed during the valve inspections. I'll turn that over to Ken and Shane if you guys want to answer that question. You're muted, Ken.
Sorry, everyone. We won't have to close any roads for this. You'll just see several pickups out with their flashing lights on, getting into valves, and there'll be no parking restrictions or anything like that, as long as nobody's parked on any valves. Almost all of them are in the travel lane, so that really isn't an issue either. This is a very simple inspection, and I'll just give a brief detail of what we're doing. We're trying to make sure that the valves on the lines that are connecting to the 24, that those valves are accessible, operational. And then what we'll do is very quickly shut down all the valves, open a hydrant, and with a control valve, see if we can turn that sectional line down really quick, and then we just turn it right back on. So it's literally a 30-second or 1 minute turn down, and it comes right back on. It's really simple, but it's really important that we have control of the lines that are connecting to the 24. So it's a rather simple evolution, but it's super important.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ken. Yeah, we want to make sure that we know how to isolate all the valves in preparation for this so that when construction actually starts, that we're interrupting everybody as little as possible. So, and like I said, the work should be done on the 26th in the event that the 27th is required because there was we encountered anything unexpected. Definitely we will be reaching out to you guys and letting you know. But otherwise, it's not expected that we should have any issues. If you have any issues with, like, if your water doesn't turn on or anything, feel free to reach out to us to, ask and make sure that, everything's been turned back on and your phase is done and over with. So also during construction, you can expect, pretty much what you would expect for traffic and access issues. There'll be temporary lane closures, detours, shifted traffic patterns, but there will always be pedestrian access accommodation, access coordination with businesses and residents, and you guys will always have access to your homes, and also emergency vehicles will always have access to your homes. And then finally, here's the proposed project schedule. You can see up there, we've got the valve inspections on the 26th and the 27th. We're also doing a geotechnical investigation that will start next week. It'll start looking like some utility locates, which are flags and paint in the area. And then you might see some trucks out there doing boring, like digging little holes in the street just to, look at what the soils and the groundwater are in that area. We will have design complete mid-June, look to start putting the project out to bid, contractor selection in mid-July, and then we would be looking at construction beginning in August, and we would want to start on the north end of the project, so up by the intersection with Main Street, because that's going to be the largest area that's going to require asphalt repaving. And I'm not sure if how familiar everybody is with asphalt paving, but it has a time limit. It's generally best done during the summer, spring, fall when it's warmer. Certainly once snow flies, it's definitely a lot harder for it to set. So we want to start on the sections that are going to require the most rehabilitation at the beginning of the project so that we can get that done in time. Then the end of the project is going to be more in people's yards and in open space. And so it's a lot easier to close up trenches later in the year than it is to lay asphalt. So then construction, we're looking at ending in December on that south end of the project so there's Southwood Lane on that south end, and it just extends a little bit south past the Bible College. So just a reminder again, this presentation and all project updates will be on Project Connect for this project for the duration of this project. So anytime you want updates, have any questions, this will be available for you. And I've got on this presentation a link to the Project Connect website, also the QR code. A reminder again of the traffic alert notifications, text Windsor Roads to 888-777. And then there's also, you have the opportunity to sign up for alert notifications at Notify Me at the Town of Windsor Civic Engage, which is on our website. And then then my contact information is at the bottom. So with that, I will go ahead and open it up to questions, comments, and concerns. And and then I'll just start with Brian's questions about it taking 4 months to lay the pipe. And just want to, if that's reasonable, or if it seemed, or if that it should be done quicker. Ken and Shane, do you guys want to take that question?
With the big pipeline, there's a lot of unknowns. So if we get it done before 4 months, it'd be awesome, but you never know what you're going to come with and what you're going to find in this whole process of laying this new line.
So I think a lot of the big part of it is we're going to try and keep as much of the line live as we can. So we'll be going in segments, and in that segment, of course, there's quality procedures that happen, pressure testing, bacterial testing, water quality, all of that along the way. So part of that 4 months is also restoration. So it's a little misleading, but the pipe, we can't just lay it like we're in open field. So it's a little bit complex trying to keep everybody with their water on and managing traffic and a few other things. Casey, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think you know exactly what Shannon and Ken said. They're just unfortunately it's pretty complex where this transmission line is coming through this residential area and the way that some of the connections are. We're doing everything we can to try to minimize that. We want to try to lay it out in a way where the contractor can move as quick as they can. But there's also a lot that's really up to the contractor and what they can do. You know, how quickly they can move through certain segments. There's also just a certain amount of working safely, how much of the trench they can have open at a time. But yeah, we are definitely doing what we can to try to minimize that. We know this is going to be a pretty impactful project to anybody in this area. And so yeah, we'd love to get out of there as soon as we can. We also don't want to give you an ideal timeline, and then if anything goes wrong, and you know, sometimes when testing, they have to come back in and realize something that didn't get installed, didn't pass the pressure test, and dig that back up. So we hate to tell you that they'll be done in October, and then they're still here and causing problems. So hopefully they're done faster. Exactly. But you know, it's a lot of times things like that come up in construction, especially on a big line like this.
Another thing I just wanted to point out is it'll be a progressive process moving along. So the people on the north side of the project, they're going to be impacted by it at the beginning of the project, you know, and as we progressively move south, you know, people, it's not going to be, that entire project area isn't going to be shut down from August to December. It'll be done piecemeal. So it'll be, it'll impact different residents and businesses along the length of the pipeline throughout the process. So basically what I'm just trying to say is you don't have to worry about you know, you having lack of access to your home or to your business for that entire August to December duration. And then Brian also had the question, how long do you expect the water to be off for residents during construction? Do you guys want to talk about that? Or Ken and Jim and Shane?
So we're going to try as much as we can to keep people in. We're looking at different methods of feeding at least some domestic supply back through hydrant ports. So we're going to try and limit those times where people are completely out, but for when we can logistically do it, we're going to try and feed some domestic supply back in with ground lay piping.
And also, I was gonna add that the way that the town's water distribution system is, how it was built is, we rely on a loop system, which means that if we were to isolate a segment of line, we are very cognizant of making sure that we can still feed water, we still have adequate fire protection and things like that. So if there is an area where we have to consider when we're designing this, when we install pipe and if it affects a main line, you will be notified before that, and we will make sure that you guys have adequate time to prepare. But as far as, you know, the intentions or not, we take the 20-inch offline and, you know, we're relying on a different source of water. Because Jill said that it's all going to be phased, we are aware of the impacts to customers and where their taps are, and making sure that during the construction phase, we're taking that into account when we start construction.
Yeah, and one more piece on that, we're still, yeah, again, working through what we think that'll look like at each of the connection points, but ideally, any time that water service is off is gonna be isolated to a few, you know, temporary shutdowns for, you know, maybe one day while they come in and tie in. So there might be a time period just to get that done, but ideally, it's no extended time period for anybody. So as Ken mentioned, we'll be looking to provide some kind of temporary service so that any shutdown is just a temporary while a valve gets installed or something like that.
All right. Was there some more comments there that came up or questions?
I'm just seeing requests for communication, and notifying the contractors about what is private property, which the contractors will have designated construction easements that they can use, and it will not be, you know, on people's property.
And Brian, I have a quick follow-up question to that question. So the property you said north of Fernwood between 14th and 15th. Is your concern just that that green space between Fernwood and the pond there? I'll watch the chat for it. So I just want to make sure I was looking at the right piece of land.
Yeah, that's the property in question.
Okay. Cool, good to know. Yeah, we will make sure to note. So the plans that the contractor bids on will have the property lines and then the ownership information from the county assessor will be on every parcel. But we'll also make sure to flag that then, especially if that's a particular concern. You know, when we get to the pre-construction meeting, you know, we want to make sure the contractor knows anywhere that any landowners around here have particular concern or something like that. We'll make sure they're aware.
Awesome, thank you. I did a quick question, like just contingency planning for like leaks and breaks, like outside of the active construction area. I think this line's been pretty fragile. I think we've had some, you know, breaks or leaks after, you know, a section was fixed or we replaced a valve and it, you know, leaked upstream, downstream. I don't know which, but just curious how those might be handled if they arise.
So those would be handled as a typical emergency. I mean, that is why the urgency for installing a new line on this is critical. Just based on the age and past useful life and also understanding the criticality of it. Some of the other issues too that are removing or that Jill had talked about is we do have a few services on that line. So a true transmission main is designed to take a large volume of water from point A to point B with limited connections to it. And so by removing those few services that are on there, if this line were to ever have an emergency repair that was required on it, unfortunately, we would have to isolate it, fix it. And like I said, just because we know the nature of how many homes this feeds, depending on where or if that were to happen, the system is designed as best as it can to try and provide water to as many customers as possible between isolation valves. And the way that we're trying to design this is keep it in service as long as possible, and then also stay far enough away from it so that it is not impacted during the construction as well. So I hope that answered that question, or if not, let me know.
Yeah, I was just curious, like if it'd be an emergency situation or like that crew would be pulled off
Yeah.
and disrupt progress or anything.
Yeah, so maintaining water to our customers is the #1 thing. So if it were to impact the project, our main concern is getting the water back in service and using that emergency repair to make sure that that happens.
Awesome, thank you.
And then Brian had a question about the water, if there might be any change in taste to the water after the pipe is installed. I have lived off of a major, and I was on a transmission line, a Greeley transmission line, during the 287 widening project. And afterwards, we didn't experience any flavor or, change in the taste of the water, but I'm not sure if anybody else is familiar with what can cause that or if that is common.
So I'll take that one. Jim, jump in here anytime. Jim, well, I guess both Jim W. So as we're trying to get some of these services off this line, there might be a few houses that are affected by something like that. But really in our sterilization process, we do a great amount of flushing, and the rest of that water that would probably be delivered would be blended with the system, because this line is going to the tanks. So it wouldn't necessarily affect those close to it because it'll be blended in the system, if that's makes sense.
Mhm. And I would just touch base on it too. Yes, so the intention is to use PVC C900 pipe on this. And the reason for that is when you use ductile iron or cast iron or steel pipe, it has the susceptibility for corrosion. With PVC, it doesn't corrode that same way, which prolongs the life of it. It will serve the town for a long time. I also agree with Jill. I know that I have heard some things that when you install a PVC line like that it may have a plasticky taste, but I've never had that. I know in new communities, to Ken's point about disinfection, it doesn't affect the water quality of it. But that is a consideration, that, I have heard sometimes as well.
So I'll take Brian's comment about the sanitizing water. So we are currently putting together a dewatering plan with a consultant, and there are ways of removing that chlorine from the water before it goes into the pond. And where possible, we'll probably try not to go direct into the pond, but we'll have treatment trains. And you can use other chemicals to actually deactivate that chlorine. So it'll be closely monitored by a professional consultant.
Yeah, and I think to add on to that, and I see your comment, just hopefully not to dump it into the pond. We'll make sure that we have specifications together for the contractor on what what their dewater needs to look like. They have to get a permit from the state to do it as well, and they need permission from anywhere where they're going to be dumping the water. From my understanding, those ponds are directly connected to the river as well, and so that does put a lot of extra, even I guess just considerations around that. And so the contractor will definitely need to make sure that they have permission to put water wherever they do, and will make sure they don't harm anything if they did work with the HOA maybe to use those ponds and make sure that the maintenance that you're referring to is not going to be impacted. There's also other options they may need to look into. Dewatering is always difficult in a project like this, and so we'll see. We'll see what they can come up with. It's ultimately up to the contractor, but we want to help them in whatever we can to make sure there's a good plan on where to send the water, how to flush it, and all those other things.
I can take this one from Brian. The ponds are actually connected to the river. There's I think it's 312s under a tree on the south side that have some constant flow from groundwater. The pond has a emergency overflow that would cross under Fernwood and go into the Whitney ditch, but there is a small discharge line that goes down to the river. We'll have to map all that out for state permits as well.
Yeah, I just want to really reiterate the fact that those things are regulated by the state of Colorado. They require permits and regular testing, and that holds the contractor responsible for all of their dewatering. And so there is, provisions in place to ensure that there won't be that impact to the ponds.
Brian, I wanted to follow up on one other. I saw a couple of questions you had earlier, just comments about notice ahead of time for things, and so we'll definitely try to do everything we can to put notices. Looks like you asked for 2 weeks ahead for street parking. That's a helpful thing just to know. Obviously, there's some concern being in a residential area if somebody's leaving a car somewhere, and if it might not be one that you're using all the time. So we'll keep working through that with the town, and once we get a contractor on board and what those constraints are, but that's helpful to see, and we'll try to keep communicating as much as we can.
As we finalize the design and kind of prepare to go out to bid and, eventually give direction with the contractor on how to, with any access issues or, stuff like that. Does anybody have anything they want to point out that we may not be aware of? In terms of access that we can consider now so that we make sure it's included in the design and in the bidding instructions.
To add a little more to that, if anybody here is, looks like maybe there's a question. Can I see? HOA manager. Okay. Yeah, as far as some of the access, especially when we're going through that commercial area, anywhere where there's businesses, we know there's unfortunately going to be, some impacts. There will be some driveways that just won't be able to be used for a time period as we come through. So what we'd like to see is just, is there anything, maybe it's delivery schedules for, the grocery store or anything else like that might be, maybe is able to, set up some certain phasing that the contractor could know ahead of time to say, okay, if we can keep this, closure on these days would be helpful. That type of thing is what would be helpful to know right now. But unfortunately, there for sure will be some impacts, but we just want to minimize them as much as we can and keep you guys moving in and out where you need to. Yeah, sorry, when I say restrict access, access will be, we'll make sure that it's capable one way or another, but, for instance, one example is that driveway turning in just north of, the Safeway development right there, we're gonna be going right through it, so they're just, when there's a trench open and we're putting a pipe in, that driveway will not be, nobody will be able to cross that, but you'll be able to access the other direction then, so, it's just things like that is, there might be where you can currently go two directions at a time, or there'll be some that will become restricted. In saying that too, I don't want to give a wrong idea to anybody. The other one, the homes between Lakewood and Fernwood have driveways directly off of 15th. Those ones are going to be a lot more challenging just with those driveways. So I just want to point that out. We'll do everything we can to keep that as little impact as possible, but that's going to be a very challenging area to keep vehicle access in. So if anybody lives in one of those 6 homes, definitely an area we know there's greater impacts, and we'll want to make sure that the contractor has a good plan for how to navigate that, but something we're still working through.
Yeah, and I apologize if I kind of made it sound better than it was going to be. Like there certainly are going to be inconveniences and there's going to be restrictions in access, but it will always be very minimized and to make sure that everybody is inconvenienced as little as possible. But there will be some times that it will you know with lane closures and traffic redirection and stuff like that, there will be some of those inconveniences at times. But we are trying to just make that as short of a time period as possible.
Hey, Casey, just quick follow up here. I do live on one of those 15th Street homes that faces the pond. When we're talking like inconvenience there, like, is there a scenario we wouldn't have access like down 15th, or you just think like we'd have like a 1 lane access to our driveway? I guess I'm trying to get a little more clear understand that.
Yeah, it's a good question. So as part of the project, so to get your service, as Jill and I think Ken had mentioned before, getting your service off of the new transmission main, will be a new 8-inch main that you'll be able to have your service off of. And so we're working through a phasing plan, which again, once the contractor's on board, we'll get a lot more information. We can actually work with the people who are going to be doing this and make sure a good plan's in place. But from our end, before bidding, we're trying to at least give an idea of how we think this could be phased. So with that in mind, I think there will be a water line being installed then closer to the driveways at one point in time before the larger transmission main comes through, is kind of the way we're envisioning it right now. So as far as getting access between and how many lanes are open, I think we'll need to have the contractor on board to work through those kinds of things, see what creative ideas that they'll be able to have too, and hopefully minimize things even more. But within it, it might be something where once they do the trench, maybe they can put the pipe in, put some kind of temporary fill it back up with gravel so you can at least drive across it until they come back to pave it later on. And there might be something like that, but I would anticipate for sure some challenges with access during that time period.
If I understood you correctly, like it'd be a little bit more extensive than the openings they've dug out for like repairs in the past on 15th. Little closer or farther west, I guess.
Yeah, it should be. I think the way we're looking at it right now, so the repairs are pretty close to that east curb, is where that existing line is going. And all of this, the new pipe is going to be west of that. So yeah, it'll be closer for sure. There might be some, yeah, that we'll have to see because it depends on how quickly they can get through that section or if we need to, phase it with, just across certain parts at a time just to see how we can do all that. But definitely happy that you're on this meeting and we can see how that would work and what kind of access we can try to keep as much as possible.
Thanks.
Excellent. Well, thank you everybody for participating today. We appreciate it. If there are any other questions, feel free to, oh, I see we're getting another question. I just didn't want to sit here in awkward silence. Oh, as a comment. Thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate it. So yeah, we are here and available to help and have, the best interest of the town and want to, or in, our desire is to meet the best interest of the town. Unfortunately, upsizing, replacing water lines is inconvenient no matter what the circumstances, but long-term, the benefit is worth it. So we appreciate all of your patience and understanding and your willingness to take your time today to meet with us to go through this. And like I said, this presentation will be available on Project Connect. Once, we've got it back from Teams and we can post it, and we will continue to be posting regularly on the Project Connect website. I did notice that our awesome communications director, Julia, is on. Julia, if you want to hop on and say anything or add anything about communications, on the project, I'll let you jump in here.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you able to hear me okay? Okay, perfect. I guess the only thing I would mention is that our direct Project Connect URL is windsorprojectconnect.com/15th Street Waterline. And then if you want real-time text message notifications to your phone, text Windsor Roads, all caps and one word, to 888-777, and you'll get text messages directly to your phone. Yep, perfect. So that's all I have to add. Otherwise, stay tuned for updates.
Excellent. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we will let everybody get back to their afternoon, and we hope you have a good afternoon. Stay dry. But thank you again for everyone for participating, and I hope you guys all have a great day.
Thanks all.
Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you.